Hello, Smalls and Talls. My name is Tesney, and let's talk about healing in Endwalker today. I'm excited. I saw the media tour, I've looked at the leaked tooltips, and I like it so far. As a general observation, there aren't any major changes to the feel or class design of any of the classes. The road to 90 is going to look like the road to 80, which kind of look like the road to 70, and that's not a bad thing. White Mage and Astrologian specifically kind of had some identity crises at the beginning of Shadowbringers and throughout, and those have been addressed. And since it wasn't broken this time around, no one tried to fix it. White Mage is still going to be a beast, as it should be, and now it can drop healing cannons. Divine Venison and Thin Air are getting charges. So much blood for the Blood Lily. Astrologian is still flashy, fast, and fabulous. Gauge minigame will change, but there are still almost as many cards and a blissfully simple divination. 2 new wait for it abilities are going to fit right in with Earthly Star. With all those off globals, Astrologian should still feel just as chaotic and busy as it does now, and that's fantastic for me. Last but not least, those poor scholars. Their level 90 ability does look cool, and it could possibly be very cool, but it doesn't feel like a cohesive part of the Scholar toolkit. There's not a whole lot of cohesion in the Scholar design. But hopefully with some changes to the Fairy AI and how that responds, Scholar might feel a little bit better than it did before. We're getting a new healer! We're getting Sage a new healing job to make. Now there's going to be 4 healing classes in Final Fantasy. And this is going to be great. It's going to inject a lot of new energy into the current healing population. There's going to be more healing styles to choose from, so we're going to hopefully see more players entering and playing. All of the healers are now going to enjoy a shorter cast time. This is the change they made for Astrologian back in Stormblood to help them weave all of their off globals, and it was a phenomenal change. It's wonderful, and I'm actually very excited that all of the healers are going to get this. I think that Scholar specifically is going to be the quiet benefactor of this because they will be able to weave their fairy abilities with that shorter cast time so much easier. So the off-global fairy ability that was maybe not worth your cast because of the clipping now suddenly is, and you have a lot of opportunities to use it. That's a fantastic buff. Burst windows and windows across other roles are getting better aligned. Healer damage rotations and burst abilities are not changing, but other classes are. And the reason this is exciting is because healer DPS by itself doesn't hold that variety. The first phase is where it's at. I love all the sounds and special effects of the opener and just being really in that moment, kind of knowing that everyone else is also making the most of it right there and then too. Like, it's the one time in the game where all 8 of us are doing the exact same thing, and then after the opener, after the burst phase, the healers go back to their kind of their own little mini game. So it is nice just every 2 minutes, every 3 minutes, we have that moment where we're doing the same thing. It's kind of the most exciting part of raiding in Savage for me, is just living for that burst window. Healing will not fundamentally change. These new abilities are consistent with the old abilities and the damage patterns in previous content. I feel like our quote-unquote rotation is really going to remain unchanged. The priority for always doing our nukes and off globals first, and then last priority direct healing, that's still there. Astrologian is losing Nocturnal Sect, but it seems like a very clean amputation. It's the best I could have wished for, knowing that I was going to lose half of my healing, is to only lose exactly that half. Party Finder might fundamentally change. The subcategories of Pure Healer and Barrier Healer are going to make balancing across those subcategories a little bit easier. There will be less job combinations that the developers have to plan for and design fights for. So it will be easier for them to balance. However, these changes could make Party Finder a bit more awkward to use, and a population imbalance could spell longer waits for that last slot. Throughout Shadowbringers, White Mages dominated Savage. As many as 45% of completed logs had a White Mage in them at the beginning of the first raid tier. Scholars made up the rest of that, maybe 38 to 45%, and a humbling 11% representation of Astrologians. Now, over the tiers, those disparities dissipated some, but there are still almost as many raiding White Mages as there are Scholars and Star Mages put together. Will the influx of new to healing sages be enough to counter the pure healer overpopulation? Or will existing scholars abandon Eos for Sage, causing a shortage of barrier healers? And last but certainly not least is new glamour options. I feel like in Shadowbringers they made a point to bring out certain pieces for healers that maybe had been lacking, or we didn't have specific unique things like the gowns and the puffy sleeves and like the new-ish Guardian styles. A lot of those I feel like were specifically to kind of address holes in the healer glamour collection. And I'm hoping that in Endwalker they do the same and they continue to kind of look for things that are going to be new or things that complement what we already have and give us even more looks that we can play with. On the moon! We're going to be on the moon, and I can't wait. Thanks for listening.